Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Muted, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Neil, you know who I am. The Scuttles.
Oh, yeah, I know everybody. I recognize the voice, but I'm not good with the names.
I'm thinking about moving to Arizona, though, because they don't do that clocks forward, clock backward crap.
They don't have daylight savings in Arizona, did you just say?
No, they don't. It's they actually made a law where they don't have to do it.
Oh, all right. Well, that sounds good.
There's a few states in America that don't do it. You know that, right?
I think like 7 or 8 of them. Don't quote me.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Well, I mean, set it backwards.
I get an extra hour's sleep.
Yeah, but moving it forward and backwards is stupid. You're not doing anything. All you're doing is changing. God. You're just moving your daylight from one point to another, just within an hour. You're not actually doing anything like major.
Well, you can't say because it started and we're doing it so long, you are losing an hour and gaining an hour. Your body's got to get adjusted, no?
Just because, yeah, in normie society, all of the opening times then just go forward or backward an hour. Well, obviously you've then got to negotiate the time of day earlier or later than you were, respective to what the sun's doing. So yeah, your body's going to get slightly messed up doing that.
Isn't that similar with that jet lag? They call that jet lag, right? When you fly in 2 time zones.
Right.
You know, jet lag is a pressure differential. It's like going diving. You've got to equalize. But with this, it's just stupid because your body's set to one schedule and your body runs like a clock. Like, I can set a mental alarm and wake up at 6 a.m. every day. But it just, once you start moving around the time, it's like your body's expecting to do something at a specific time and, oh shit, now it's changed.
Yeah, my boss is here early. Oh, God. He is so annoying to work with. I want to strangle him. Great guy. Pain in the ass to work with.
Hey, Rams. or not.
Yeah, Nathan, I agree with you.
I didn't make any statements, did I?
No, that's what I was pick up the dead air time. That's what I was doing.
I see. That would have worked really well if I'd have just made a really, really outstanding statement about something.
I thought it was funny, Steve.
More funny, given that Rams and I have had disagreements about various things over the course of involvement with Flat Earth debate. Adding to the hilarity. Hey, Eli.
Trees, man, trees.
Hello.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, are ballers so stupid they appear smart, and their obfuscations are almost intelligent in a way, or is it malicious?
That's a false dichotomy. I think there's a bit more to it than that. So at first, when I was dealing with these people double speaking around their failure, so they'd lose the debate on a particular point and then either circle jerk or double speak or whatever. The impression I was left with early on was that was a sign of intelligence. And then one day I ran that scenario past QE and he was like, no, that's just their brains going 10 to the dozen. That's all it is. Trying to figure out a solution. And if the wires are getting crossed while that's happening, that's just mentally painful to them. Doesn't mean that they're doing it with any malicious intent. They're just scrambling to find an explanation that their brain can't necessarily deliver on the spot. So they circle jerk or whatever they do. You know all the tactics. So yeah, your false dichotomy doesn't necessarily explain it. And even my attempt to explain it is divining the cognitive processing of our opponents, which is a bit silly. But there we go. You asked.
Well, it just seemed that, like, yesterday people fell into that, trying to figure out their motivations, and I was trying to stop them. But we're people.
It depends on who you're talking to, because there's OG people that have been in this for a while, and they do it maliciously.
Maybe. Don't know either way.
Yeah, you'll never know.
Well, when the context is spread out, right, and everything is laid out upon the context that you're talking about, and they talk about something that has nothing to do with the context, every time they respond, they're either A, avoiding it because it is painful, or doing it to be malicious. And at this point, you say 3 or 4 years of being around Glovers, they're doing it maliciously because they know that what they're saying is wrong.
Don't know that. You can only infer that. It's very lowbrow as well. Divining people's motivations as opposed to attacking their argument and then just leaving it at that. But, as John just said, we're just human. We're intrigued by such things. But literally everybody is intrigued by such things. Like I say, it's very lowbrow.
Right, when you find it hard to define it.
Go, John, go.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you find it hard to define a triangle, I'm not going to say it's malicious. I think it's just confusion.
Well, here's one that I've been enjoying. Terrariums. The need for a container to sustain life. I can repeat containers completely sealed, sustaining life with a proper mixture of gases inside of it. And I can sustain that life for as long as those plants can continue to grow, right? Lifespan of the plants. I can't do that with their gas balls and spinning earths and none of this other diddly-doop crap. Even if I did give them one giant container to put all this stuff in, they cannot demonstrate it once.
Terrarium is a bottle garden to the uninitiated.
Right. Right, but then they try and pull that. Well, that's a false equivocance or a false dichotomy, or you're just saying because you can do something that's how things are. Okay, well, you're saying that that's how things are and you can't do it. I'm saying this is how things are and I can do it 1,000 times over.
You show
Well,
a demonstrable
then-
example of gas pressure with containment and a complex cycle going on within it in a contained system. And they'll say that's false equivalence. You say, well, how do you show gas pressure without a container? They say, well, we can't show that scale. You've got to be the size of Earth to show that. Just beg the question, basically.
Right, they did that yesterday because that's where he landed. I said, I'm waiting to see anything you guys have on a small scale demonstration, just anything.
Yeah. My question when I'm dealing with someone like that is, it gets slightly modified to, without pointing to your religious belief in a sky vacuum, how do you demonstrate gas pressure without a container? Because if they go, well, sky's a vacuum, innit? No, don't just beg the question without pointing at your fundy belief.
Yeah, the definition of pressure is the problem for them, isn't it?
Force over an area.
Yeah,
Right.
the area part.
It's force exerted over an area, but then they get with gas, and it's force exerted over an area as a container that the gas is applying to. So they can't get up there and touch it. They can't go where the gases go. So they're upset.
Yeah, but their priests do. Why would they lie?
Yeah. I have a song to play for that by Chocolate Saying. It's a really good song.
Indeedy. Been watching this guy, and I'm convinced he used to be a commenter on either or of my two channels, or the two main channels, I should say. I've got 4. Not that anybody knows about the other 2 particularly. But the guy's called Robot Underground, right? And this particular guy is actually a YouTuber. He does make videos. And he makes subwoofers. Now, I love speakers and hi-fi in general. So, guy making subwoofers, talking about how subwoofers work right up my street. So I watched this guy, and while I was watching him, just talking about subwoofers, nothing else, I'm like, I know this guy from somewhere. I recognise his icon. I'm sure he's been one of my commenters. But I don't know why I feel that way. I just got this sneaking suspicion. And after about, I don't know, let's say I've watched 25, 30 of his videos, he started talking about his ambitions to go to space. Which is really good, because the guy's talking about deceptions within audio and how people need to do their own research, blah, 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 blah. He bangs on about going to the moon. Very amusing. Just thought I'd mention it.
Now, my big bag is law, and it gets me about as much kickback as Flat Earth does.
War or law?
Law. L-A-W, law.
Why would that get you some sort of kickback I don't follow?
Well, because there's two types of law that are basically running the entirety of the world. You have ecclesiastical, which is proper, and you have commercial canons. And you got people mixing those and thinking that one is the other and the other is the one, and it all makes sense. And then you ask a question, and then everything falls apart.
Okay. Other than specific people who are very interested in that section of discussion, I still don't follow why that would get you any backlash.
Well, because it's the same thing with the globe, right? We were told to do one thing. We were taught how to do, fold our clothes, brush our teeth a certain way, all this stuff. And now somebody's coming along questioning your entire routine. It's the same thing.
I understand. So what you're saying is, where there's good law, in quotes, abiding citizens following the rules, etc., you come along and point out, well, that's not actually a rule, or the application of that rule isn't necessarily how you believe it's so. and they don't like it because suddenly they feel like you're highlighting the deception to them. Nobody wants to feel like they've been a fool, and therefore they'll brace against you telling them. Is that what you're saying? I'm just reading between the lines.
Yeah. Like when people say, "Oh, the code is the law." Okay, well, what is law spelled with? Is it spelled with a C or an L? And that's where the cog disc comes in.
I understand. Well,
That's
jolly
what
good.
brought me to this subject.
Go ahead, John.
That's what brought me to this subject was law, because it has a lot to do with the meaning of words and how you define them within the context.
And see, that's what's funny, right? That's what brought me to Flat Earth. I was studying law and going back and reviewing scripture. I stumbled into studying about the Nephilim again, the Anunnaki and all of that, and stumbled into Rob Skiba and the other guys. There was a bunch of guys from Europe that were teaching Flat Earth and stuff about Flat Earth, and I was sold. I just dove right in head first.
Jolly good. I really don't know how Math Power Lens video came to play on my iPad that day at 3 in the morning or whatever time it was, really late. Because at the time I was studying psychopathy. I mean, I don't think that's even loosely related. Now, if I'd have stumbled...
Called Destiny.
Maybe. Or just autoplay, because it was getting a lot of hits at that particular moment. I don't know. But in any event, had I been studying the thing prior to psychopathy, which was subliminal messaging, I'd have kind of gone, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. I'm looking at something a bit conspiratorial. And then that's followed. But psychopathy? That doesn't really follow onto Flat Earth, does it? So when I got here and people are like, well, do you know about this, that and the other, 9/11 or banking or law in this specific context? I was like, no, I don't know. What are you talking about? Because I hadn't looked at any conspiracies. I wasn't particularly interested in it, to be honest. Same goes for the moon landing. I had no desire to find that out as fake. In fact, I was a fairly, I don't want to say devout, but, you know, reasonably enthusiastic globehead.
I was just the other guy, sorry, guy. I was the same, but just before Flat Earth hit me, I was looking into
breaking up one deck. Can you drop and rejoin? You're breaking up quite badly.
Absolutely flat.
Can you hear me? Oh, he's dropped. Brilliant.
Hey,
hold on, just one sec,
Nathan,
John. Just one sec, Neil. Just quick test one deck.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, not bad. I'm sure maybe have the same problem. We'll find out in a moment. Carry on.
I was just saying the guy who was mentioning I was currently looking into the Anunnaki. Not that was attached to Flat Earth, but that just fell on my laps, and I found it very interesting that I'd never heard of this before, and why hadn't I? And I was looking into it and finding things out, and then all of a sudden, that's the next step was Flat Earth, and that hit me, and then that's how it progressed. So just a bit of useless information, but I just thought I'd mention it.
Sure, but you can see a potential for an overlap because of Rob. Rest in peace.
Rob Skiba's dead?
Did you not know that?
No.
Wow. John,
Yeah.
You don't remember?
No, I don't keep up to date.
I didn't either. I'm not a big, I don't want to say fan of Rob, but, you know, I knew the guy. I'd interacted with him several times.
There's some that say you are still a devout glober, Nathan, and you have the perfect globe proof. Can we see some?
The lighthouse at Isle of Man? I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't think so. 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 I don't
It's funny how they still talk about it, though. Bunch of morons.
It's normally newbies that have been fed surface level tripe by our opponents to make it seem like you don't need to look into this subject. Look, even the people who are promoting the idea of the flat earth, because that's all it is, an idea, isn't it? Even they know it's a globe. Here's an example. And your cursory searcher will just go, all right, this person says they've got a perfect globe proof with no context around it.
Sarcasm isn't one of their strong points, then, is it?
It wasn't sarcasm. It was me disseminating a discussion that Tony and I had had. I think his girlfriend at the time, my wife, and Spurs Chemo, I think. It's a long time ago. We're all there. Yeah, we were. Yeah, it was Spurs. And we see this lighthouse flashing. Get video footage of it. Go back and start looking at the footage. It's just a dot, 1 pixel light flashing. That's it. Now, then Anthony and I, as you do, get into the discussion, and on that occasion, I play the globe head as devil's advocate and put all the positions I can think that wouldn't make it a good argument from the globe perspective. Excuse me. And after the fact, we obviously all go our separate ways, the visit ends, and then we get back onto the show. I don't know, a few days later. And Anthony wants to drop this piece of proof. And I'm saying don't do it. It's not good. They'll just argue it as a globe proof. Now, when I'm writing that shorthand on a message in Skype that Anthony's got screen shared to every other participant in the Hangout, I type to him, nah, don't present it. Perfect globe proof. My abbreviation for the devil's advocate position discussed in the moment when we took the imagery. That's my shorthand version of it. Now, out of context, somebody can take that and say, look, Nathan said he's got, or it is a perfect globe proof. But that's my way of disseminating to Anthony. That's how they'll spin it based on Fresnel lenses and etc., various other discussion points that we were dealing with at the time. So that's the full context. Me playing devil's advocate, arguing against Anthony releasing what I saw as a crap piece of footage, which would just end up in them arguing it as being a globe proof.
Well, looking back on it now, that lighthouse had an angular relationship to the eye, didn't it?
Yes, the entire discussion resulted in a shorthand label for the calculations that were being performed in that discussion at the Isle of Man, which was the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking, Earth curve calculator. Well, yes.
Because perspective needs a flat plane for it to work.
Correct. But that wasn't the point we got to in the Isle of Man discussion. The point we got to in the Isle of Man discussion is when you put something in Muppet Vision, on screen now is Muppet Vision. If you were an observer looking at this ludicrous depiction, you'd be actually in this image looking at the side of your own head, something that isn't possible. If you're standing on that boat, you're not looking at your own head on a boat, you're on the boat. But they present it this way so they can give an actual size for the target. So the target's a 10-foot wall. Well, it's 10 foot regardless of distance, so it doesn't change with distance, so they essentially remove all aspects of perspective and then call the effects of perspective limitations to your angular resolution Earth curve. And then when it doesn't match up, they add on Earth curve plus 7/6 and call it refraction. Terrestrial, atmospheric, sphere-shaped air-based refraction that just manages to wangle it back into whatever they need it to be mathematically with a derivation of their original claim. But that was only in regards to the targets prior to the Black Swan. We debunked the actual tangent point that was supposed to be obscuring these targets that don't change size with distance. The actual size in their calculations remains the same at all distances. Ergo, if you draw a man on the left-hand side of a picture like this boat, and on the right is the target, the sun, well, if the sun was on the ground level, you can write 1 million miles on that line. So I'm just going to bring the sun down to the line of the sea in this particular diagram. So I'm going to say that the sun's here. This is how your typical anti-flat earther will position an argument against flat earth and say, well, if the 10-foot wall is here, you've got a straight line between you and it. And then on the line, you write 1 million miles and say, well, it wouldn't matter if it was 1 million miles away. Hence, you end up with idiotic questions like, why can't you see New York from Ireland, from the UK? You're like, well, because it's too small. Miles too far away. But then they throw up a depiction in Muppet Vision with perspective excluded and say, look, if I draw a line on my diagram, there's nothing in the way stopping you seeing it. But if I draw it with a curved line in Muppet Vision and call the target a feet in inches or metres value that doesn't change, I can claim that the reason it's disappearing is because this Earth curve obstruction known as the horizon in this maths is getting in the way. Well, there's no account for the fact that it gets smaller and smaller until it eventually disappears completely. They just say, oh yeah, it goes over and over the curve until the curve covers it completely. But yes, to round that out in terms of the point that was being made, if you want to take a couple of year discussion and journey for us in terms of how we've been duped into believing that there's a physical edge for boats to fall over on a sphere Earth, that was our progression through that discussion. And people want to claim that a lighthouse that we categorically proved wasn't matching their mathematics in any way, shape or form, and how they had to bastardise their own mathematics just to get it to match the imagery we were presenting, we still lost every single time we made the argument because we were arguing within the framework of a begging the question. Proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. That is to say that it's an Earth curve calculator. So as soon as you start arguing about how the maths are right or wrong within the Earth curve calculator, everybody on both sides are arguing about how much or how little or how well it matches the Earth curve that we're all assuming. We just didn't realise we'd lost the moment we entered that discussion. Now we do. That's why it's got such a long title.
But, it's pretty interesting, too, though, because they can't even get near that argument now until they can answer the curved baseline.
Yep. First problem they have to deal with is getting an elevation angle. Second problem they have to deal with is acquisition of a geometric horizon after they've acquired a flat plane angle measurement. So, they're not even going to get close to the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator here. It's so far down the line it's untrue. I mean, it's still out there. Newbies still think that's proof.
Yeah, but it's funny that, because that used to be the big thing 5 years ago, that it was everywhere. Everybody was arguing about it.
Yep, just how it should be. And that's when we had people piling in en masse. Now, again, like I will repeat, we didn't know that we'd lost the discussion, the debate, the moment we started with the calculator. You're automatically begging the question of a sphere Earth with a sphere Earth horizon blocking boats and buildings, and you're just discussing how well it works, as opposed to whether or not it's actually the case. Well, that's why we had 10 ballers every day, because whether they knew it or not, had won the moment they started arguing with us about it. Because all they're doing is arguing about how much or how little or how well it matches the Earth curve we all know we've got on both sides. No wonder there was 10 of them a day. Not anymore.
No, there don't seem to be any come in. I mean, unless they're trying to get Bitcoin or they're confused and stumble by. I don't think any of them come in a second time on purpose.
No, you don't get any repeat visits for people trying to claim Bitcoin. They come, they lose, they protest to David that they really won when they got annihilated, and then they disappear into obscurity forever.
I was in gyms this morning. Me and Nathan Thompson ran into him in there, and something Curve said about a tangent line of sight. And I was like, excuse me? You haven't had a straight line of sight since, 2 years?
2020, 1st Jan.
And, then they began to ad hom and ridicule. And I'm like, that's such a silly way to respond to a very concise rebuttal. They're very silly at they're just pretending to still be Globers. They're like the ghost shell of a Glober, They're not even real Globers anymore. They're has-beens.
just on a different point. Am I coming through all right? Yeah. Or can you not hear me?
Yeah, you coming through?
Just a couple of things because I'm going to shoot off. But I live in Manchester, but today the sun rose at 6:18 this morning, and it's going to set at 18:18, which is 12 hours daylight. Not the official equinox, but it is actually the equinox where I am today. So happy equinox. Point two. It's just in regards to getting the information out there about the show. I think it could be a good idea. I heard about the guy posting the letter through the letterboxes, and I share the show on social media. Another way to do it is if we had a generic letter or something like that we could take a photo of, and I do this with other things. You could actually airdrop it. So if you just airdrop it, if you're in a busy town or city, just airdrop it, and you can pick up 30, 40 people, and they'll open it and have a look at it. And you could have some, Nathan could put something eye-catching on there about the show and flat Earth, and you can get people's attention pretty good like that. Just have it on your phone all the time and keep dropping it, keep airdropping it, and spread the word. It's an idea, guys.
I really hope somebody does. And in terms of marketing, I don't have the resources or the time to do any of that sort of stuff. So hence I'm really, really grateful when somebody else does it, and I'll commend them for it. But I can't do it. I literally don't have the time.
No, I will do it.
Guerrilla style marketing. For all of the metropolitan areas with high traffic, if people could get like index card size billboards or like maybe a card even, or something like a regular like loose leaf, like a magazine size advert onto the paper. You could, I don't know, on specific days do it a specific targeted marketing. I think they call it guerrilla style marketing or whatever. But if you could buy like, I don't know how much 500 or 1,000 would cost, but I imagine less than $100, and just hand it out that week. I'm pretty sure that'd make a difference in anything.
I'm sure.
You've got it on your phone, just a snapshot.
I mean, the best I can do is suggest people hit the share button because it's completely free and they're there watching the show when I ask them to do it. Hi, Adam.
Yeah.
I was thinking about putting $5,000. I was thinking about putting $5,000 out, challenging somebody to show angle with the curved baseline.
Well, there is a QR code for the Discord server, so or maybe make a QR code for his YouTube channel and just put it on a sticker and put it on your car.
Yeah, I'll just snap.
Breaking up again, one deck.
Airdrop about.
We got the sentiment of what you said, but yes, you're breaking up again. One deck.
Morning, guys.
Hey, chocolate.
Hey, morning, chocolate.
Sorry, Eli. Go ahead.
I was just saying morning to chocolate too, but they do think across the street at gyms that they think it's cute to offer up this challenge from Mick Looney Tune.
Got video coming out on that on Saturday.
So I'm that's great because they're super delusional.
Yes, it doesn't seem to matter how many times we point out that the entire challenge is based on a flat Earth acquisition of an angle measurement. It doesn't seem to matter. They just stick their head in the sand and ignore it.
Well, we're talking about after we established a flat plane, Nathan.
Yeah, we've already got the angles.
After.
They're already in the challenge. You've just got to do it on a flat Earth. Yeah, you got the angles from a flat Earth. You're just whistling past it. Are you going to actually do this challenge? No, it required a flat Earth. Yeah, but you haven't done the challenge. It hasn't been fulfilled. You needed a flat Earth to set the challenge. Just don't listen.
Well, see, Kosho says that you can use an almanac and then... Kosho says that, yeah, sure, you can use an almanac and a sextant, and then Curve says, no, you can't use an almanac because that's globe. And I'm like, so you've recorded measurements, angle measurements. The people that first put this together, how they do that? I didn't say this, but I'm just like, how do you do it? Where do you get these measurements? Obviously, on the Earth, where does globe come in?
Like a spoiled kid.
Know.
No, these almanacs are mine. They're mine. They're globe almanacs. You can't have them. They're flat Earth tools. They're being utilised, and they were derived from flat Earth elevation angle measurements. No, they're not. They're globe. You can't have them. Yeah, really? Is that so? Bless your little cotton socks.
You know, it's great because when I'm done with my kitchen series, whenever somebody tries to debunk it, I'm going to give them the same list of stuff they can't use to debunk my kitchen as a sphere.
Oh, that's going to be good. That's brilliant. Oh, you listening, Muppets? All of the stupid excuses that we have had in rebuttal are going to be laid out with the process from start to finish by John. So we're going to see a flat Earth acquisition of an angle measurement, deriving it into a sphere, completely violating the original measurement, and then ignoring it, and then translating it back and asking how it can work on a flat Earth, and then explaining how the resources used to gain the flat Earth angle measurement are actually only in relation to the globe that was derived after the fact. Yeah, that'll be excellent. Can't wait.
I'm still working on the grid coordinate system because I'm trying to do it how they did it, and shit, they've had 500 years to do this shit. It's not as easy as it looks. I mean, I can make a cheesy one, but
I think for the purposes of illustration, no one's expecting your cartography skills to be A-OK. It's done for the mathematics, not the cartography. Would you agree?
Oh yeah.
We don't know the land layout. Yeah, and we've got what they've got. We've got the same maps. Now, we're not going to ascribe a model to any of them, but by the same token, maps are still used even though there's thousands of them. So we can all agree, even on their globe side, they haven't got an accurate map. Which one's accurate then? If you're saying they're all globe projections, okay, which one's perfect? Oh, none of them. So that's a stalemate, in essence. So in that respect, you're like, okay, well, if you want to claim that some of these maps that are being used accurately represent the land, when in my humble opinion, and indeed math power lands, that's the entire point of the deception. It's about the math, it's about the power, and it's about the land. And what do you know? We've got thousands of maps with no accurate description of where actually everything is. So that's a stalemate. Go on.
I think the reason they're not accurate is because they're using the celestial sphere. And that model, while it's a useful flat Earth model for describing the movement of stars, right? It's not an accurate representation of reality.
I agree. There's a relationship that works. It doesn't mean that you've got a translation from the sky that necessarily matches up with the ground below. Now, further to that, when people are using maps and navigating, they're getting discrepancies in terms of the times that they expect southern and northern hemisphere, with their arrival and departure times being calculated based on hull speed. And they get it wrong, which tells me there's something wrong with the maps. Now, okay, so what? I don't actually care that much. I'm not who's blowing their nose? Harp. The owl, mate. I don't care. I'm not a cartographer. I mean, it would be nice to know where it's all laid out, but prior to Flat Earth, did I really care that much? Did you care about where everything was laid out? Now we know that there's a deception and that somebody's making money potentially or retaining power or whatever it is that's the motivation that we're not going to divine now. That's not the point. now that you know, why is it that suddenly you've got to be ultra concerned about being a cartographer and getting the layout correct? Well, only because there was a false dichotomy and burden of proof reversal fallacy that dictated that we should and must give an accurate map. Well, I don't kowtow to that anymore.
Oh, I see it now, because like things are getting warped when I take it and put it onto the sphere, right? So it's not really looking like my kitchen when I try to grid it out, but that's to be expected. Because they go through the same problem.
Yeah, exactly. So the way you cover that problem is just have a lot of maps. And say that they're useful for different purposes. And when you're actually, you know, divvying out these maps to your armed forces, you give them out in very small chunks that you have to apply for and request, and then they send you, and then you open it. It's all very secretive. That's how it works. That is how it works.
Yeah, and you make sure that your maps don't match the maps of the Navy.
Who keeps doing
Navy
that?
Maps.
Who keeps coughing up off mute? Who's doing that? Is it you, Harp? Bloody hell. Sitting some...
I got him. I muted him.
Thank you.
Was it Hart?
Yeah, it's just sitting there going...
Yeah.
I like Hart.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. I'd never do that. Sorry.
Other than men.
Hello, guys.
Hello, Arwin. We're just about to start live. How are you?
They are.
Great.
You good?
Yeah, I had a pretty intense show today. Man, the ballers are really looking for a spanking today, I think.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Eli, Chocolate Saiyan, Father of a Stolen Child, Neil, the Adam Meekin, Arwin, Brian's Logic. Did I miss anybody? I don't believe I did. Also a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Full house today.
Yeah, quite busy.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Everyone doing well?
Good
On this fine Friday?
morning.
Good. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle from a curved baseline?
Does my diagram prove this?
Got a diagram?
No, you can't.
Hold on, just give me a second. Let's put it up. No.
And no, you can't. In fact, they don't even claim that you do. They just say, no, it's fine because at the point at which I'm standing, I can just utilize this point right here as a plane.
And what's the sextant mirror pointing at?
A horizontal plane.
But then you're establishing a horizontal plane. Let's move on. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Definitely not, because if curve was right earlier and you had a tangent line of sight, then the horizon distance would be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And since the Black Swan, the horizon has been miles and miles beyond that, debunking that it's a geometric sphere edge with a radius of 3,959 miles. So, no.
So in conclusion, the Earth is not a sphere and the horizon is not Earth curve. Any evidence of axial rotation? Go on, Brian. Go.
Yeah, I just want to say after you like that, no, it's impossible for that to, what you asked for evidence of that, which was the sphere edge horizon or curvature. That's impossible because celestial navigation have to use parallel zeniths. That would require diverging zeniths. And you can't use diverging zeniths with celestial navigation. All zeniths have to be parallel, but you can't have parallel zeniths on a sphere.
You want to see Zanuck bullshitting and lying about that very subject? Become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, because I don't know when I'm going to release those videos, but they're currently available to members if you want to check them out. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? Any evidence of the distance to the Sun? Well, I can see how keen you all are to get involved with this housekeeping session. I'm really appreciative of the enthusiasm level.
We're just offering the ballers a chance to speak.
Are there any ballers?
I was just going to say that too.
Any ballers? I don't know if there are any. Does anybody know if any of the people in Discord? I'm asking Discord this question. Are there any ballers in there? I'm asking the regulars.
There's some skanks skanking around here.
In VC, Stag, in VC.
Yes, sir. Skanking it up.
Yeah. So who is in VC that's a baller, if anybody? Voice chat. Just a mumble and a mutter, that's all I'm getting. God.
Been sectioned.
Pardon? Just getting one-word answers from Discord. My God, it kills the moment if I try and get Discord to participate in any meaningful way.
No, there's no ballers in there.
No, okay.
Peaceful Warrior might be.
No, Peaceful Warrior I don't think is. Okay, let's move on. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No, there's no scientific evidence of gravity. You would have to prove its existence first.
They don't know what it is.
Moments like those that gave Darth ammunition when he would make up those slides. I wish I'd put some... Maybe I did put one or two in the slideshow. I can't remember. But if it pops up, I'll make a note of it. But what he did was he had a fake or faux Discord pretend chat like I've got, right? So he's got this Discord chat along the side of his image when he's taking the piss out of us. And in there he's got 999,000 participants. You know, it's absolutely chock-a-block. And then Ethan Woodley, the piss-take equivalent of me, does exactly what I've just done. Tries to get basically blood out of a stone by asking Discord for something, and there's just a tumbleweed sound effect and nothing happens. Times have changed since Darth made those videos as well, but by the same token, before he made those videos, it was a very different story. You know, it'd be the equivalent of Discord was just the G+ server, and it was a free-for-all. The link was public. And, you know, like I said in the pre-show, there was often times it was me against 10 ballers, because unbeknownst to them, they were already in a winning position when they begged the question with the calculator of Earth curve. Scientific evidence of gravity. Anybody at all?
I was going to ask you, did you ever go back and listen to the first 100 shows recently with
Not
the
recently.
knowledge you have now?
I have after the fact. A chunk of time has elapsed and then I've gone back and listened to the old shows, but not recently. I don't have time.
I think it'd be interesting.
Helium puddles is the proof.
Sorry, helium bubbles is a scientific evidence of gravity.
Puddles.
There are no helium puddles. What are you talking about? Gas expands in all directions to fill the availability of volume it has to fill. Now, if that volume is already occupied by another gas, that will impede the dispersion. That's entropy. But it will still ultimately disperse throughout the container. That's entropy. So when you say pool or puddle of helium, what are you babbling about?
Well, what if you...
that would be the natural consequence if you believed that gas had a downward factor. Right? They never really say it like that, although some have actually literally ended up saying that in the end.
Well, like Thunderfoot, gas go down, go boom, boom. Here's my bouncy balls poured into a fish tank example to demonstrate how gas goes down, go boom, boom.
Right, well, that's a metaphorical analogy, right? It's a metaphor, but some, I guess, have said, like, yeah, if you have a chamber and you put helium in it, it will eventually end up more at the bottom. Who was saying that again? Maybe this is Bob.
Idiots,
no, I'm not sure.
Anti-flat earthers, Thunderfoot.
Right. So if you ask, hey, scientific evidence of gravity, of course, my immediate response is going to be helium puddles.
Still get people commenting on those videos. It's always an ad hom. Oh, you're an idiot. Do you think you're more smart than PhD clown Thunderfoot? And my response is always the same. So you think gas goes down, go boom, boom, like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank?
Well, with the helium, if you take and put it in a container and you increase the pressure to the point that there's no, that the gas takes on a liquid-like behavior, would there be a puddle of helium then?
There is no puddles of helium. What are you talking about?
No. Well, it will be puddles, but it would be liquid helium, not in its gaseous state, right? That's like in a gas tank. Yeah, you might be able to pressurize it until the point that it is literally a puddle, but it's only because it's now a liquid.
It's not now a liquid. No, that's incorrect. You're describing a compressed gas. That would be to say that you take the gas and you force out all of the gaps, or, to put it another way, force all of the gas itself closer and closer and closer together. Well, then it behaves like a liquid, and that would be described as a fluid state. Well, it's still a gas. It's just a highly compressed gas with very few gaps. So if the particles are rubbing against each other, that's liquid-like, but it's not a liquid.
Hold on. But if it looks like a liquid, it behaves like a liquid, it's kind of a liquid. Right?
No,
just because if you unpressurize it, yeah, it would immediately resort back to a gas. But
no, it is a gas.
In that format,
No. You're confusing highly compressed gases, which are described as, in some instances, fluids, which is a liquid-like state, but it is a gas. It's not a liquid.
What's the what? But I don't get it. It's all about like the intermolecular bond behavior, and
that's the point.
If it behaves like a
they're
liquid,
not bonded.
Is it a liquid?
That's the point. They're not bonded. They're just compressed together. So while they slip over each other without any gaps between them, you could say, well, that's very much like a liquid. Other than there's no bonds, there's no intermolecular bonds. So
no, Nathan, you're wrong.
No,
you're
I
wrong.
thought so. The pressure creates.
Hold
the
on,
bonds.
hold on. Brian's saying I'm wrong. Let's hear Brian. Go on.
Yeah, you're wrong. When a gas becomes a liquid, it's then in a liquid state.
Sorry, when a gas becomes a liquid. Yeah, we're not talking about that, though, are we? We're not talking about a phase change. We're just talking about a highly compressed gas in a very small amount of space.
We are talking about
pressurization.
You're all correct.
Change.
Oh,
You're
there
all
we go.
correct.
Mostly me, though.
Mostly you, obviously, but then mostly all these points are correct because we're at this point where we probably will have some phase change into a liquid, but some, as you describe, this is a very, excuse the right word, fluid point, isn't it, in terms of what's happening? Some are doing this, some are doing the other, some are restricted, some are escaping off because there's less volume. Where we're moving away from compression, you've got different areas of pressure as well, because we're creating such a dynamic system that what's regulating it as well is the gas pressure itself that's causing it. It's not really the temperature, it's just the amount of pressure you've got. So I would say you're both correct, because all of those
not
things
at all.
exist.
That was akin to what Brian said. If you're saying you force it into a position where it undergoes a phase change, then it is liquid at that point because it's undergone a phase change. That's not what I'm talking about. That just is a liquid.
Hold on.
But that's what we were talking about.
Let me try to explain it a little bit better. See, pressure affects the temperature at which a phase change will occur.
We're not talking about phase changes. If we've got
the more pressure that is in the system, the different temperature the phase change will occur at. So how do we know that it's not a phase change?
Sorry,
Nathan's talking pre this, I assume.
Say again, Adam.
Just when we've got a very, very highly pressurized gas, but we're not getting phase change, then yes, some of the behavior you're seeing, because it's so impinged, the intermolecular movements, because there is nowhere to move, you can describe it as a fluid.
Thank you, Adam, for confirming how 100% correct I was. Yes, I'm not talking about forcing something to undergo a phase change. You can describe how you give it a different amount of heat or whatever other influence you want to cause that phase change, but then you do have a liquid. It's just in liquid form because it's undergone a phase change. And then what I'm talking about.
Right, and
So
it's different with different gases. It's different with different gases.
Okay, different with different gases. Is there a visual difference between this fluid-like state and when it actually changed phases? Is this observable?
Yes.
Well, there you go. So then you are talking about two different things.
Yes and no. They're linked by the question that's going to follow. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
Oh, no. God, no. God, no.
So this I don't want to call it a segue because it isn't a tangent. That's a reasonably up-to-date word. The tangent off the subject matter, which is gas pressure without a container, can be discussed in its minutiae in terms of phase changes, etc., etc. However, every single discussion will work on the premise that we have containment in order to achieve gas pressure. So this discussion takes place in a very small container, correct?
We've been discussing the nuances of what pressure changes can do. To have pressure, you first of all must have containment to then have the delta of the effects that the pressure can elucidate in terms of phase changes or intermolecular spaces. But all of that is premised by the fact that to change the pressure, you have to have containment.
Perfect. Thank you for the summary. Anybody got anything to add on that housekeeping question? Gas pressure without a container? Can't be done.
Where's your container at, flat earthers?
Sorry, what?
Helium bottles.
Let's address that. Sorry, what container did I claim?
You're saying that we can't have gas pressure without a container.
That's correct.
I infer there must be a container. So where's your container at?
What gas pressure were we talking about when you talk about the container I haven't yet claimed? Which gas pressure were we specifically referring to? I haven't made a claim about any containment of anything. I've made a statement of fact that without the container there can be no pressure. Actually, that's a quote from Conspiracy Cats. My bad. Either way, yeah, that's a statement of fact. I mean, I haven't made any claims about any specific containment. I haven't said, well, if we've got a load of oxygen, it will require a container thus. I haven't made any such claim yet.
Well, we're breathing air. There's gas pressure on Earth.
So you would therefore, when talking about the air as you have brought it up, you would need to infer that that gas has containment then, because you're the one discussing that, and you're now making a claim about the air we breathe. I didn't make that claim. You did. Where's your dome?
Gas doesn't need containment.
Let's just see where John goes with this. You've just now brought up the air we breathe, something I didn't do and didn't make a claim about it. So what about that air we breathe? How is that? Is that pressurized gas?
So you're saying there's a difference between the air we breathe and pressurized gas?
I didn't bring it up. You did. Is the air we breathe pressurized gas? Was my question.
Yes.
And so therefore it's going to require containment to achieve that.
Right, where's your dome at, Flat Earther?
What dome? I didn't claim a dome.
Look, if I'm going to get you into a false dichotomy, you need to accept the dome.
No, I don't accept the dome. I don't accept that. I have no idea what the sky is, nor do I need to know. I only know that without the container, there can be no pressure, and as you rightly point out, we live in a pressurized system.
I don't like John's straw man of trying to define the shape of containment. There's no need, there's no inference we can draw with regard to the shape of the containment. We can only use natural law to deduce there must be containment.
The atmosphere doesn't need containment.
From Nathan's standpoint, or from how he's arguing, actually, it's just a known fact that in order to have gas pressure, containment is required. Like, just discussing the topic on its own without any context of why we're talking about it, it's, well, yeah, in order to have pressure, then you have to have a volume for the gas to fill to read the pressure. But when we're talking about air, it's you that then makes the, it's you that then, you know, makes the logical leap that, yeah, well, we're breathing air, so there must be containment then. So unless you're going to argue the fact that gas pressure requires containment, you have to make a claim that perhaps it's something other than something physical.
Well, no, it's not at that point, though, hold on. That's not a claim. That's just stating an antecedent-consequent relationship. That's not making a claim.
No, I'm saying if the person arguing against you claims, well, actually there is a way that we can have air next to a vacuum. If you're not taking the bait, then they have to make a claim. But you're not making a claim, you're just stating fact.
Yeah, that's correct. That's exactly what I was trying to do. John's too smart to be led in that way. But ultimately speaking, yeah, that's where I'd lead them. And at some point, they will make the logical inference for me. And as long as I've made no claim about ice walls or domes at that point, it's then on them to make that inference, and therefore their claim in terms of the necessary antecedent consequent relationship that we have for gas pressure, I can leave it out there without making any inference. That's a statement of fact.
I want to make my statement.
Go on then, Arwin.
Gas pressure is a straw man. Atmospheric pressure doesn't need containment.
Atmosphere is an oxymoron. Air doesn't take sphere shapes, it takes the shape of its containment.
I was just going to say that, like, I was demonstrating a tactic. False dichotomy, like, it's a big one. If you're in this subject at all, you've run into it probably 1,000 times where they try to make you defend a position that's not your own. Nathan's too good.
Well, they tell you that gravity does the containment. That's what they tell you.
We did cover this already, but any scientific evidence of gravity?
Bottles of helium.
That's not scientific evidence of gravity.
We had scientific evidence, we'd have an observation first. Do we have that?
No, there's no phenomena to study.
Okay.
any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics.
So there, we've got plenty of observations. Do we have any? Can we proceed from that point, though? Do we have a independent variable we can manipulate?
No.
Well, if you're a heliocentrist, you cannot put that observation out there without invoking a model with a radius value.
You mute chocolate.
Nobody in their field uses the scientific method, so I mean they probably could, but they just don't.
We get the full quote from Michio Kaku.
Yeah, chocolate, go.
Nobody in my field uses the scientific method. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork. Seat of the pants.
That says it all. Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius.
Equator distance. You can't measure the radius. You can only calculate it.
From a flat plane.
Derive it from the terrain.
A flat plane.
Yeah.
Oh, that concludes the housekeeping. Jolly good stuff. 100 people watching. There was about 5 minutes ago, but I didn't want to interrupt the flow. Shout out to all of you in the live stream. Thank you very much to all of you who smashed the share button already. If you haven't done so, please smash the share button. So you asked an interesting question yesterday, John, about whether or not we would actually reach the point of understanding in regards to the black swan argument and therefore the elevation angle argument if we hadn't have had a couple of years of discussion on begging the question, proof of nothing perspective, hijacking Earth curve calculators, then on refraction, terrestrial, and the false equivalence with actual refraction. If we hadn't have gone through that process, there's a good chance that we wouldn't have the appreciation and the ability to debate the subject in the way we do. Which also then raises the question, well, if we need to have advanced in that method for that period, what chance has a normie got who comes here to the tip of the spear? That's my question to you.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, as far as how do you translate that information into something easily digestible for someone who's new to the subject? That's hard to do because you're trying to fit, 5 years of knowledge and understanding, semantical range of words into, a few sentences. Hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, it will come with the elevation angle argument, but I think the consensus amongst us was the one we would universally all agree on, not necessarily use first, is gas pressure without a container. If you're confronted with a newbie, and I've done this myself, and you're talking about it, you don't then have to mention the dirty words of flat Earth and have all the associated stigma attached to it by pointing out that space is fake. You can't have gas pressure without a container. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. You can fit that in a tweet. But yeah, elevation angle argument is a lot more long-winded to discuss not because it's complicated, but because there's a good chance that the person you're discussing with it doesn't necessarily understand the maths or the implications of the maths. So therefore, you've got to explain it to them. When you measure an angle. Go on.
I was going to say there's that, and then the Eratosthenes thing, that was taught to all of us as proof of a sphere. If someone's going to turn around and point at Eratosthenes and say, look, he measured a 500-mile flat plane, their immediate knee-jerk reaction is that they're going to want to fight that because they've been taught otherwise.
Then it's not as good.
Don't remind them of the dingleberry.
Well, you're not necessarily drawing out tangent planes when you do that with Eratosthenes, right? You're just detailing what he actually did. I'm pretty sure that will get developed, John, with time. You've just got to keep bringing it up so that over time it develops.
Yeah, I agree that it's the knee-jerk reaction, though, of when you hear contradictory information to what you think you know, to want to dispute it. And that's just a natural human, how people are. And Eratosthenes was one of those things that was drilled into us when we were young as proof of a sphere, and it's not.
I quite like the idea of tossing the hand grenade back from the anti-flat earth rhetoric that is the Flat Earth Society. So I've done this a few times in comments recently, which is when somebody will address you in the subject matter but outside of the arena. So in the pre-show I was talking about, what did I say the channel name was? Robot Underground. You know, the subject's come up because I've confronted him about his belief in travelling to the moon. So obviously that opens up the discussion for people asking it. But my response was to say pretty much the same rhetoric that the anti-Flat Earth Society put out, and ask them if they still believe boats fall over a sphere-edge horizon. I've just taken that because I thought that's clever, that is. You know, take your weakest part of your argument and then spin it into something that your opponent has to defend. So then you don't have to defend it, they defend it. Wonderful. Well, that's not a difficult hand grenade to toss straight back over the fence, is it? Because they do actually have a sphere edge for boats to go over. I mean, it's not just some farcical notion that they've created and imposed on us, flat earthers. That's actually their rhetoric. They do actually have boats falling over an edge. So to rephrase that and repackage it back at somebody who's never come across the subject, that's a shock. Like, what do you mean boats falling over the edge? But there's enough context in that to trigger people into a realisation that literally boats are falling over an edge in the globe model.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm not able to be a little bit more involved in this conversation. I'm getting assaulted by kids. But
yeah, I can hear it. I think, it's okay.
Yeah, the Eratosthenes thing is going to be, I think, the simplified form of the Sexton argument.
I totally agree. It removes the horizon. So you don't need anything other than a flat plane and an angle. So it doesn't get any more simplistic in terms of breaking down what he did and how it proves a flat Earth within a few sentences. And it will get refined over time. No doubt. John's just cued everybody else in this discussion to step in. Did anyone pick up on that very unsubtle hint that he just gave out? Let's hope. We'll find out.
I can't. I'm working. Sorry.
I didn't hear it.
I missed it.
Oh, well, it's glad that you're all paying so close of attention to what John and I are discussing. Thank you, Jesus. He said he's got kids to look after and they're all jumping on him, so he won't open the mic and cause audio chaos. But that ultimately means that one of you's got to step up, otherwise I'm going to have verbal diarrhea for the next half an hour.
What were you talking to him about?
Does it matter?
Well, if I know the subject, I can join in while he can't or something. That's all I can do.
Eratosthenes.
Yeah, okay. Eratosthenes, yeah, okay. Eratosthenes, it would be impossible for him, I did hear this at the start, it's like, no, Eratosthenes, it would be impossible for him to use a tangent plane. The whole point is he's supposed to be measuring a distance. But he's measuring a distance with an angle. So it's an angular measurement that gives you a distance. That's what he's doing. Using the GP of the sun, right? So because he's using an angle, and it's an angular, and he's using the GP of the sun, right? And he needs to gain the distance from where he is to the GP of the sun, which would have been the well. Then it has to be a straight line distance, right? You can't turn that into a curved distance of this between the two locations, the observer and the GP, because you turn that into a curved distance. It changes the distance, because a straight line and a curved line within the same parameters are two different distances. So, no, he measured a flat plane. Now, is there anything else to talk about?
You did release a video which I watched today, or maybe it was late last night and I just didn't see it, Brian, in regards to having parallel lines. Did you want to plug that video? Because it was a good video.
Well, I've released two very similar ones in the past couple of days. The one I released there would be last night. That is called 60 flat nautical miles per degree, because I'm detailing how the process of using nautical miles, because you have to use 1 minute of degree, right? For 1 minute of degree to become 1 nautical mile, then there's a specific distance let's just say, that's attributed to that 1 minute of degree, right? And it's a slightly bigger mile than a statue of mile, and that's how, and because they needed to fit 60, into 1 degree, they needed to do it that way. So I think it's the Babylonian system, I think Adam says. But the thing about it is that is that to do this process, it requires parallel zeniths. The observer's zenith and the zenith from the GP are required to be parallel. You can't use 60 nautical miles per degree without using parallel zeniths. But in the globe model, they have to have diverging zeniths. They can't have parallel zeniths. So consequently, the problem they have then is they can't use 60 nautical miles per degree, because to get a zenith, they all don't understand the difference between a zenith angle and a zenith distance. Your co-altitude distance, right, what that means is that the observer's zenith, right, must match the altitude of the celestial body above the GP. So if you're on a globe and you're using Polaris, you're taking you're trying to take, not that you can take one from a curved surface, but you can pretend you have a tangent plane, let's just say, right? And you take an angle to Polaris, and that angle is 45 degrees. Now, technically, in the real flat world, that would be 2,700 nautical miles from the GP of Polaris. But in globe world, Polaris is 434, I think it is, light years away. So that means your co-altitude from the surface of your globe for your zenith as the observer must be 434 light years away. But then because those zeniths are diverging, the line, which would be the depression angle, so if your angle is going to Polaris, right, your depression angle then has to go across, it's the roof of the elevation angle. Not that you don't have a real elevation angle, obviously, because it's on a sphere, but you can't do that, but you can create a depression angle. But your depression angle then will be greater than 434 light years away, or light years of a distance, because your zeniths are diverging and your co-altitude is 434 light years. So your distance will be hundreds of light years. Your zenith distance, your co-altitude distance will be hundreds of light years. So you can't use minutes of degree or a minute of degree to match nautical miles, because your distances would always be crazy. You'll never be able to do it, because you have to take into account the co-altitude, which is the actual the height of the star, the actual altitude of the star. But when you're using parallel zeniths, you don't have to do any of that. That's why celestial navigation never need to deal with the height and altitude of stars. It doesn't matter if a star is 1 mile up or 1,000,000 miles up, because it's parallel zeniths. The distance will always be equal all the way down through all that area of those parallels.
Which means
down to the surface of the Earth.
Exactly,
the Earth has to be flat.
Exactly, to the surface of the Earth, which means that the roof, as you described it, is also parallel with the ground. And the distance between the two matches, well, again, as you said, you can only achieve that if the zeniths are parallel. And as soon as you have them diverging, as you go further up, the distance increases. So it's not going to match the ground. So it doesn't work. It's just that simple.
No, the 60 nautical miles per degree is designed around a horizontal plane, a horizontal baseline, because you have to use a box system. You have to use a box system where the roof of that box becomes your zenith distance, and the base of that box...
Don't mention 90.
Yeah, well, we have no choice. We have to mention it now, because the base of that box is your horizontal distance. If you have 2,700 minutes of degree of an angle or a zenith distance, that becomes 2,700 nautical miles along the surface of Earth in a straight horizontal line, along the baseline, the 0 degrees baseline or whatever of Earth. See, this can't be done. And there's something else. I won't be able to show it right now, but I'll present my screen a little bit later. There's something else that completely annihilates the globe as well in all of this. It's just an extra thing. It does matter, but it is. I'd have to show it to explain it. But where even their depression angle, it makes no sense when they do it, right? Because they can't do an elevation angle. They can only do a depression angle. But the point is they can't do any of this. And they don't understand this. They're arguing like crazy with me. I have hundreds and hundreds of comments in the past 2 videos. I put out another video there, the second video there this morning, or sorry, late last night, and I have hundreds of comments already on it. because they can't understand. They don't get it. Your co-altitude has to match the altitude of the celestial body. But you don't need to claim an altitude to the celestial body using parallel zeniths on a flat plane, just like they don't claim any altitudes to these celestial bodies in celestial navigation. But if you're using diverging zeniths, then you have to use your whatever, light year distance, whatever you want to claim. And what does it become then? Ridiculous distances. It'll never match. It'll never be 1 minute of degree for 1 nautical mile.
I just noticed
it will be crazy.
I just noticed in your comments that people have started to declare that you need the height of the star. Again, I was quite amused by that. I was like, didn't they do that after 2 or 3 days? Try roping us into a height distance. And the way that they were angling for it was because some flat earthers with a stereotyping fallacy do ascribe a height, and how their height is up to infinity. Whereas if you do it with our height, it's like, what do you mean our height? You don't need the height. That's not necessary. They run parallel. It doesn't matter how high it is. All that matters is the position below it. Well, it can only be below it if it's parallel, not if it's diverging. Then it screws up everything. It doesn't work anymore. Great comment from Super Chatter Godzilla37, who says, and I'm going to read this twice because it's brilliant. I'll start that again, I've ballsed it up already. It's a globe if you believe it. Full stop. It's concave if you believe it. Full stop. It's flat if you measure it. That's a brilliant Super Chat, Godzilla37. Thank you very much indeed for the support also.
Yep, well said.
Very well said.
Well, I was going to say, Nathan's knocking the height of the star argument, but that was able to prove my kitchen wasn't flat. So I like that argument.
Yeah, they like it too, don't they? It's just not necessary. Again, if you want to argue that you need the height of the star, then you're arguing against celestial navigation, not us. Your beef is with that process, because it's not needed. It's just needed for a little flat earthy straw man to burn now, isn't it?
If they don't understand that, but if they don't realise why we're not claiming a height of a star, even though they'd love us to do that, and they don't realise why celestial navigation are not claiming a height of a star, they probably didn't watch the video they're commenting on, more than likely, or they don't understand it. They don't get this, right? I have so many of them telling me, see, so-called globe experts, telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, and then they go on to try and correct me. And it's an absolute train wreck is all they come up with. They don't have a clue about what they're talking about. They are learning about celestial, I'll say it again, they're learning about celestial navigation from Prototad, MC Toon, Bob the Science Guy, Fight the Flat Earth. All these people are jokers. None of these people know what they're talking about. They don't know when you should use a Bubba sextant, when you should use like a Mariner sextant. They don't know that the dip correction is only mathematical. There's so many things they just don't know. This is such a simple thing. You cannot use 60 nautical miles per degree without parallel zeniths. It's impossible. Yet not one of them seems to be able to come back with a video proving that you can use it with diverging zeniths. Not one of them. It's been days now. I have a second video out. Not one of them. But they'll all tell us that we don't know what we're talking about and want us to declare a height to the stars. Why would we do that? Celestial navigation don't declare an altitude to any of these stars. So why would we be doing it? There's no need. We use parallel zeniths. That's your problem. The height of the stars that destroy the distance to your stars that destroy your model are your problem, Globers.
Cool. Another quick shout out to Super Chatter. I'm just digging it out for you. Goldie McKinnon says, how can I get a copy of that flyer that guy put through people's mailboxes? I want to do something similar. Very, very strange coincidence. That was one of the subjects of the pre-show, Goldie McKinnon. I'll see if I can dig it out. I'll put it up on screen, and then you can screenshot it or whatever. If I can find it. Hopefully that won't kill the conversation completely while I'm doing 2 things at once.
Well, I was thinking about putting out a challenge, putting $5,000 on somebody demonstrating an angle with the curved baseline. Thinking about it. Just because I know it's impossible.
Good solid challenge because no one's going to take our money.
Yeah, the best they're going to be able to do is draw another straight line and use that as their baseline to claim that they got an angle, you know? Like, they're not going to be able to get an angle from it.
You mean the best they're going to be able to do is a really stupid thing that won't win them any money?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
and
they will do it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what they've been doing. It's like, how do you get an angle from a curved baseline? Well, instead of just admitting you can't, I'm going to draw another line and use that as the baseline now, and then draw another line and say there's a relationship to that line, and that'll be the new baseline, and then we'll get an angle from that.
Yeah, that's a solid challenge. No one's winning that money.
Okay, I found this image, so I'll stick it up. But while I'm doing it, I'll just fill the audience in on what this is. So I got a message about a week ago now, and that message was in regards to some proactive publicity somebody had done for the show. And what they'd essentially done is drawn up a leaflet or a document, 1,000 of them, and just gone around their local area. The name of the YouTuber, if you want to give him a shout or see him in the chat, is Sensual Goat. So check out that person. Let's just see if I can send this to Skype so I can put it on screen. Bear with me a second. But yeah, that person resulted in a reasonable uptake in terms of the number of subscribers that I couldn't figure out why. And then this person contacted me by email and said, by the way, this is something I've done. Anything you want to change or add or whatever, or if there's an issue, just let me know. I was like, no, thank you very much. I don't have the resources or the time to do proactive marketing for Nathan Oakley 1980 or Flat Earth Debate. So when someone else goes out of their way to do it for me, I'm very, very grateful for it. I'm not going to lie. That said, I'm struggling to get this bloody picture to send to Skype. Talk amongst yourselves again, if you would.
You didn't give us the topic, like...
I've got a quick filler, if you wish. I'm just sharing my screen. Nathan set me off on a little mission the other day. When he mentioned about Masonic symbols and stuff. And this one I come across, and I just thought it's really interesting. It uses right angles. How... You ever wonder how you make your square? And how you make sure your cornerstones are square. And it uses Pythagorean theorem and the 47th problem of Euclid. So we're probably all familiar with the 3, 4, 5 relationship. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. But what you can do to actually, like I say, define a square, whether you're laying a foundation stone or setting up your actual square, making your square square, you take a piece of string and you tie knots every whatever distance, it doesn't matter, every foot or every inch or whatever, and you do 12 of them. So you've got 12 knots and 12 little segments. And then what the mason will do is he'll use the stars to align on the ground a true north-south straight line. And then he'll take his circle of string and he'll fix this side down his true north side straight line. And using the knowledge of geometry, he'll pull it tight. Now, at the point where both sides are tight, straight lines, it will then naturally, because this is straight, it's been fixed straight, it will naturally form a right-angled triangle here. And that is how a mason, I don't know whether that squares the circle or, but it's how he squares a square. And it's to use right angles and Euclid's 47th problem.
Cool. I didn't know that. Anyone else knew that?
They don't need to. They don't need to do any of that. They just need to get the knots on the string, pull it tight, and just then use the knots to create a right angle.
Yeah, that's what you do. So your first line is true north-south. So if you're lining a building up, that's why you line it up true. As long as you've got a straight line, it doesn't matter if you're just squaring your square. But if you're squaring a building, so that's how they do it. But I just find it interesting that it uses that geometric principle and not a ruler, not a fixed straight line, but a bit of string is the thing you use. And that knowledge of geometry, that those relations, those 3, 4, 5 relationships will make that perfect 90-degree for you.
Perfect. Any other comments before I read out this flyer done by Sensual Goat? So it's on screen. I didn't give anyone a chance to actually answer that. Technically rhetorical. Dear resident, this is a free invitation to join the most relevant and compelling show that encompasses so much of the world that we experience. Should you be interested, here are some of the questions and points to consider beforehand. Any evidence of gas pressure without a container? Any evidence of a geometric sphere edge horizon? Any evidence that one can acquire an elevation angle from a perpetually curved surface? These are just a few of many interesting discussions that take place at Nathan Oakley 1980 on YouTube. There is a free show live Monday to Friday 2 p.m. GMT. Feel free to join the show and share your views on the nature of Earth. Thank you for taking your time to read me. There you
go. Well, as far as a place to actually...
Go on, John.
I was just going to say a place to put those, the best place to put those would be like a college or something where those kind of discussions are already happening. You know what I mean? Because that's what college is supposed to be for.
Indeedy. So yeah, I'm very grateful. Big shout out to Sensual Goat again. Thank you very much for doing that. Totally unprompted.
It's a good idea.
And that's what I said is, yeah, the metropolitan areas, because like, well, yeah, for sure. I can dump them around NYU area, downtown Brooklyn, pretty much where all the kids hang out. The J line, lots of kids with inquiring minds on that line. I mean, because it's always like that. There's an advertisement. It's like, I wonder whose Instagram that is. Let me check it out. Because there's nothing else to do on the train. Like there's a lot of good places. There's a lot. I like this idea because I was thinking about doing this for 24/7 too.
Awesome. I'm all for it. Obviously. Yeah, so there you go. So that's the proactive promotion that this channel's been getting, which is wonderful. And although we did say it last time this came up, I can't see the same thing ever happening for our counterparts. You know, if you got a thing through your door saying, by the way, Earth's a sphere, and we discuss this, you'd be like, what? Yeah, that's not my subject. I'm not interested. But who would do that for our opponents? I just can't see that being the case. I mean, maybe someone will prove me wrong and go, no, look, check out this YouTuber on the anti-flat Earth side and this dude that just randomly went out and proactively promoted him without him asking.
Well, it would be kind of damaging for them to go out and start telling people that Earth's not flat, you know. That would undermine their whole position. Because then people will be like, what do you mean Earth's not flat? What are you talking? Like, it'd make them start thinking.
But that's the problem.
That would unchain a whole...
Just putting it into people's minds that there's even a discussion about this. I think to some of them, that the ones that get really triggered about this, I think to them it's dangerous.
It's really the word.
That's
the
one
word
way of...
flat. They just don't want that word flat.
Okay, well, I wasn't...
You can view it as...
Go on, Adam.
Like that, in terms of, you're talking about plopping leaflets in. And I can't envisage anybody putting, did you know the Earth's a globe leaflet? So no one's going to pick them up. These ones, you're either going to get laughed at like we do, or actually you're going to get a point of ridicule. What I think would be more strange would be these anti-flat earthers. Do you fancy coming on a show and proving to people that the Earth isn't flat? Imagine how a normie looks at people like that use all their time to go and prove that the Earth is a ball. Come every day, live debate to show that the Earth's a ball against these people that think it's flat. It's a very different commitment, their life. And like I say, it's defined by ours.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it?
This would make a great sketch for Darth.
That's something I noticed in the comments, Adam. Exactly that. I don't go to any of these anti-flat Earth channels. I'm not interested in any of them. They don't define my life. I don't care what their opinions are and their beliefs are in terms of a sphere. None of that concerns me. By contrast, that's their life. Us, what we say. They're here all the time. I get plenty of commenters from the opponent side. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's plenty of people on the Flat Earth that are deeply concerned with what anti-Flat Earthers have to say. I'm just not one of them.
No, it's fun watching them become supposed experts when we raise a topic. Fun watching them.
Right. He said he made a video this morning, right? You released a video this morning, and how many comments you got on your video already? So how did it get so many comments? Right? Is it being shared in the underthrows of the anti-flat earthers? Like, are they subscribed to you? Exactly, and it's triggering them. That's why you have so many views and comments.
Yeah, I have videos where I could have over 1,000 views, let's say 1.2 thousand views, and I only have 30 likes. So what does that tell you? And I have maybe 700, 800, or maybe 1,000 comments. So this kind of thing. Like, so what? And the majority of them, I'm talking 90% of them, are pure garbage comments, pure gaslighting and just red herrings and just attacks, personal attacks. So that's all I have. It's just a load of hate. Like, you know, it's getting to the point actually where I'm starting to not have to even reply to them, because in any way, not that I could reply to all of them, but it's starting to, I don't even need to hardly much reply to them, because it's so ridiculous the amount of hate that's in there. It's obvious for any normal person who goes there that, hang on, this is just a load of hate. This is not someone's opinion or some facts or something. This is just hate. So, you know, I only posted a video early this morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning. And it's 3 o'clock in the day now. And I already, an hour and a half ago, had well over 200 or 300 or something comments. And they're all, majority of, a few of them only are flat earthers. The majority of them are a load of anger and hate from other people.
Well, what I get shown, because as I say, I don't watch this stuff, but often people will trim it out or comment on it, and that I do see. And that is exactly the sentiment that I pick up on. It's like, wow, this is a lot of hatred directed in our direction. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that it's socially acceptable to poke fun at flat earthers, but there is still a community guidelines line that I believe they often step over. Now, they're in a very small corner of the internet, slightly bigger than ours now. It wasn't always the case. But they're still in a small corner of the internet and basically getting away with it. Now, don't get me wrong, I can't give you any specific examples where I can say, here you go, this is a grey area where they're very close to the line in terms of the YouTube guidelines, and here's an example where they're over the line but just getting away with it. But like I say, I'm just speaking in general terms from what people send me. I often raise an eyebrow and go, if I could be bothered, I could definitely go and find a YouTube guideline that's broken, being reasonably familiar with the YouTube guidelines and community guidelines, whatever they call them. But like I say, I don't care. Now, by contrast, again, people are constantly trying to do that sort of crap to this channel. You know, I've got used to it now. It's water off a duck's back because none of it's ever successful. But ultimately speaking, they're trying to find an angle in that way, and probably studying the YouTube guidelines to see if there's anything they can wangle to get rid of me. But I've got no such concern. I don't want to shut down my opponents. You know, there is a certain symbiotic relationship that I understand in that regard. I don't like it, but it's necessary. It's part of the arena. I accept it. But it doesn't mean that I want to go out of my way to shut down YouTube channels from my opponent's side. They do.
Well,
John first. Go on, John.
I was going to say when we were talking about the leaflet, and like if the opponent side had to put something on it, there's the actual spreading of information about this actually being a debatable topic is actually detrimental to them. So even if somebody on their side went out and decided to print, anti-flat Earth pamphlets, I don't think that would benefit them. So it has to be set up in a way for them to have any kind of benefit. Is someone who's already looking into the subject needs to find them.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
They are, not just because they often disagree with the globe rhetoric in the first instance, but in general, for what you've just described, equally as dangerous as us. And I think they are, anti-flat earthers, this is segregated into the same or similar corner of the internet that we are. Just doesn't seem that way to them because of the promotion they get within this small corner of the internet. It's disproportionately larger on us, and therefore, well, they're popular and we're not. Well, if it was a popularity contest as opposed to who's got the argument that wins, that would matter. And to them, with their surface-level religious belief in a sphere, it does matter to them. But it doesn't alter the fact that what they are and what they represent is actually very detrimental to the very cause that they're fighting for, as is actually your point, John. I'm just reiterating it, really.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You could go out and print anti-flat Earth flyers and put them up, and it would be maybe even more detrimental than posting flat Earth flyers.
Yeah, and by not contrast, by comparison, when they had, was it in the Senate, literally YouTube having to say, oh yes, we'll do something about this problem of the debate of flat Earth being on YouTube, and we'll put a tramp stamp underneath. That I thought was the same principle. It's like, surely having this televised, overt censorship of a subject disseminated to the people, that can't be good. It's like telling people they can't listen to Frankie Goes to Hollywood on the radio. Well, what do? They all go and buy the album.
Right, because it's
Streisand
kind of
effect.
Streisand effect, yes, correct.
Well, but what I was going to say actually ties exactly into this. So it's interesting that John brought it up, just the way he did. I was going to say a story. There's a lady. I'm just going to say lady. I don't know what age the girl is, but she was commenting on my channel back a couple of months ago, just kind of around November, December. And she was only after kind of getting into the subject. She only kind of came across some stuff. And she was asking questions. She didn't know what was what. But I had a video up. It was one of my videos on airplanes and that, one of those. And while she was in my comments, she wasn't looking for trouble or hassle. But suddenly you had Wolfie and all these other negative people jumping down her throat saying, don't listen to him, don't do this. And it's like, you can't do this. He doesn't know anything. He's all wrong about everything and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, look, I'm just asking questions. And they just were in her face, right? And so she ended up, I had to go back in there once or twice and leave a comment. Because I think I said to her, look, just ignore them. But because of their behaviour, that she now is fully flayed. Like the last comment I got off for was on, not last night's video, the video from 2 days ago, where she was saying, ignore all these idiots. Do you know what I mean? So they made sure, like Wolf and all these other trolls, they all made sure that she definitely questioned things more with their personal attacks on me, and then eventually became, I think, personal attacks on her, even though she wasn't actually a flat earther at the time. She was just asking questions. But because of their hate and their negativity and the way they were going about it, because they're so desperate, it's like any normal person, because she was just a normal person, would go exactly as she did. It's like, hang on, what's the problem?
That's what it is, Brian. The normal people can't be asking questions. It's dangerous.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. And, of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980. I keep forgetting that we're live because of Discord issues. For all of you in the Nathan Oakley 1980 live stream for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and all that good stuff. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming Streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
To a normie because they don't know the context of what's going on. And that's what hurts the most, in my opinion.
Yeah, but that's after you've already entered into the subject and you're looking into it, you know.
You mute Eli.
Yeah, but sorry, I got you. But I'll just say, yeah, in 2018, 2017, 16, sure, sorry for that. But in today's day and age, anyone who's looking into the topic is only going to get fallacious information. Not only, but the casual searcher, somebody who's just going to Google flat Earth. Or they might hear an argument from a friend, and then they'll find flatearth.ws, the debunked flat Earth site.
It also just depends on the person viewing it and how they react to what they're saying or what they're hearing, right? Because to be honest, the first quote-unquote flat Earth video I saw was actually a UFO video, which was a dude who had, I forget, Tyler, and I think his video, I don't know, he had a UFO channel, and I was kind of into that. I thought he had some cool shit. I didn't believe all of it, but some of it I thought was kind of cool. But then one video that he had one day, he decided to address flat Earth. And at that point, I had already seen like flat Earth videos being recommended and stuff, but for some reason I said, I don't know, but I never really clicked on any of those, right? It's when this guy whose videos I used to watch on a regular addressed flat Earth, and he said, yeah, there's this bunch of people who think this, that, and third. And as I'm listening to his, I guess, rebuttals as to what the flat earthers are saying, and now I realize a lot of that was just straw man nonsense, but it didn't make sense to me. And of course, at that point, I was already well aware NASA was full of shit. The astronauts, I didn't believe them. You know, I thought it was all nonsense. But him addressing the flat Earth points, at least the ones that made sense, that actually drove me to actually put in flat Earth in a search bar and look for it. So unbeknownst to him, I mean, I'm sure he wanted me to, you know, he wants people to subscribe to him and be UFO people, but he actually drove me to flat Earth because what I was hearing was, to me, nonsense. I was just like, let me look into this a little bit more. And then that's when I started finding all the older videos, like Mark Sargent, Dubé, and all that.
Admittedly, right? That was during a time where you could actually type it in and get various search results versus typing it in various ways and getting the same results, which is what happens now. So what about the new people that are coming in currently and they look up flat Earth today and all they do is get proposed this idea that we don't believe in, followed by a debunk of this idea, which is a straw man. And the person then is left with that impression of flat Earth. Well, like, how do we reach them?
Well, Eli, I think the thing about it is that I'm happy you said that, actually, because it brings me on to a point I was going to make off of what Chocolate was saying. Excuse me. If you're someone today and you're showing a load of anti-flat out straw man arguments, right? And you're a normie, let's just say, an everyday person. Now, some of these straw man arguments, you're going to go, yeah, that doesn't seem to make sense. Maybe that kind of debunks that. But if you hear one argument from flat out that makes absolute sense, or two that makes sense, just two silly things, it doesn't matter what it is, then straight away that brings into question the globe. Even if you just think that this needs to be answered and no one can give an answer, or if some of the straw man arguments don't add up logically to you, if 1 out of 4 of them don't add up logically, that's enough for you to want to look in and see, hang on, what are flat earthers actually saying? Because you're only getting one side of the argument at that point, and there's holes in this, even though they've created what you don't realise are straw man arguments. But then as soon as you come to our side, you meet anybody, you find anyone who knows anything about flat earth, even if you just find David Weiss or Mark Sargent, straight away they'll give you more questions. So it's more of a building of the amount of questions you have, and eventually you end up here getting the answers. The questions you didn't even know you should be asking. And that's what happens.
Maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, ultimately, that's the only place you have to go. Is ultimately either you have an answer or you don't. So at some point, a person has to go, well, all this information I'm looking at is based on this number here. What does this number represent? Okay, where did they come up with this R value? Oh, okay, I see. Who's Eratosthenes? What's the method behind this? Okay, and then that's all they're equipped with, and then they run into someone like John who says, yeah, that's a flat earth proof. And then I guess they got nowhere to go.
But I think it's just simplifying the arguments is really what we're working on now, and making them digestible. Because there's a lot of information that you got to pack into, the amount of time you're going to have to convey your idea. It's not as long as they've had 18 years to train you believe it's a sphere,
Yeah, but if you have two questions that don't make sense, right? You're a globe-believing person, you're a normal person. You have two questions that don't make sense to you. And all you've seen is straw man, anti-flat earth nonsense, right? And then you come across another question. That means there's three that don't make sense. So the questions that don't make sense, once you start looking at all, they just build in numbers. So what was 2 questions now becomes 5 questions 2 weeks' time, 10 questions a month's time. So it's like the amount of questions someone has for things that aren't adding up builds and grows. And that's how they end up coming to David Weiss on one of his videos. And then they end up either Glowbusters or here or wherever, or Discord, wherever they go. But they end up looking further into it. And the more questions they end up having, the closer they come to question, the more questioning they are of the heliocentric model. And as I said, when they come to here, right, which eventually everyone does, when they do come here, they end up getting answers to questions they didn't even realize they were supposed to be asking. They didn't think those questions needed to be asked. And that's what happens. But it's a slow process, but that's what's happening.
Yeah, because it was like maybe a few weeks, maybe a month and a half tops that I was watching that video and then ended up here. Wasn't very much time.
But just how far are you willing to dig? And that's why the simplification of the questions and arguments is so important, because the quicker you can get them to that point that they understand why it's not a sphere or why it must be flat, the more powerful it becomes.
I think that if I didn't have those questions when I was a kid, I probably would have seen that video and just dismissed it and just said, yeah, the flat earthers are crazy. Let me continue watching UFO videos. You know what I'm saying? Like, but as I'm watching the video, I'm thinking, the whole people standing antipodal to each other and water sticking to the outside of a ball. I mean, yeah, I know that's the consensus, but it still doesn't make sense to me. And now what this guy is saying, right? Because obviously, if what he's saying that the flat earthers are saying is true, everything on his channel is crap. Or maybe not crap, but it's not, these things are not coming from where he thinks they're coming from, right? So obviously this is a problem. And that's what made me realize, I was like, wow, what he's saying is a problem for him. This is why he's addressing it. And I think he even said in the video, I have a lot of people, telling me to address this flat earth thing, kind of just dismissing it, But yeah, good looking out, guy.
You're off mute, John, and your camera's on.
Sorry, that's my kids playing with me.
Now I know what you look like.
I ain't winning no beauty contest.
I've seen worse.
Oh, that was awkward.
Listen to Almond like he's God's gift to creation.
I'm just enjoying like all the chickens crying out loud out there, and every time I hear a chicken now like "Pakak, pakak," I just immediately think they're chanting refraction. I just can't help it.
Yeah, we don't hear that much anymore, right? They're all fighting for a straight line now.
Crazy
Well,
times.
they better be pakaking refraction, because it's like the final straw they have left. Like, they got nothing else, right? They have to warp it all into spherical patterns, or they're absolutely gone. They're goners, right? Because we got them by the flat plane. So if there's no refraction, then it's over. So they better be pakaking, right? Because they got nothing else left. It's the last straw.
Except when you ask them how to get an elevation angle. They're like, flat plane.
Yeah, but you can still use refraction to make that all very confusing. So don't worry.
Yeah, if you can just get a tangent thrown in there, I wonder if that's why they call it a tangent in the argument when you're trying to,
Yeah, but then you get the tangent refraction dichotomy situation, Well,
I was just saying, like, if you use it in an argument, right, you went off on a tangent. And they're using, they're using a tangent as a tangent.
Right. Ooh, you got me.
Any friends in Discord want to challenge any of this?
I saw Tim Osman in chat again. I challenged him to get on Discord.
Said he didn't want to get involved in a mute fest.
I would love to hear him speak.
Tim Osman? Why?
Yeah. What was it? Nobody claims the horizon's Earth curve.
Yeah, he wasn't muted when he said that now, was he?
You bamboozled him, Nathan. You bamboozled him.
Yeah. Getting Tim Osman to boldly declare that nobody claims the horizon is Earth curve. That's a deeply embarrassing situation to not want to expose yourself to, and you're going to blame the mute button for that.
You got to throw in the second part that while he was saying that, he was simultaneously presenting pictures of the horizon labeled Earth curve.
Right.
I remember that.
With that, though, I am going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And, of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, smashing the PayPal link and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.